Hello everyone, welcome to this video by DataSense. So we will continue our Python full course. So we have so far covered around 60 to 70% of the course for Python only. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. I know like things have been a little complicated, but with practice you will get it. So in this video, we will discuss about three concepts. That is, first is how do you handle text in Python? And then there is something called file formatting, and then there is working with text files and working with PDF files in Python. These are very important concepts because when you will be like working on text data in future, so you need to know these particular concepts. These are very basic concepts as compared to what we have learned. I think most of like lot of part we have learned already, but I'm just giving you a quick revision. And then once we start working with text files, you will understand. So let's start the discussion without wasting much time. So suppose we have a variable called country, and it says that the value of country is India. Okay, now let us say I want to, how do I generate a text out of it? So what we generally do, like in previously in Python, we used to do like this: print, for example, my country name is, and then what you do country, and then you pass it, then you close the inverted commas, and after that you do format. Okay, and then country is equal to India. So like this complicated code you had to write earlier. So suppose you had to print any particular thing. So now when I run this particular code, I will get it. My country name is India. Now whenever I change things, they will get updated. But with the recent Python, the what we have right now, right? The Python, the latest Python version, I have already spoken. We have F string literals called as formatted strings. So how do we print them now? Print. So first of all, we write down the F keyword, F, and then we write down my country name is, and then we pass the variable country, and we close it, and we close it. Okay, so now see, now it is showing my country name is India. Now if I change the name of country here, let's say I change to Australia, right? And I run it, it will automatically update it. So technically what is happening, that it is taking the variable name by default, which you can pass in the strings, and you can generate automated strings. So this is very helpful when we are going to generate like when we are going to work with long files. So this you need to remember, and remember, if you do not include F here, let's say I print without using F, it will simply generate country, right? So this F keyword is very important. Okay, so now we can leverage this while we are, suppose we have a list, for example, or let's say we have a dictionary. Let's say we have a dictionary, D is equal to, we have a key one. Okay, so let's say we have a key one A, and let's mark it, for example, 1 2 3, and then there is B, and B, and let's mark it 4 5 6. Okay, let's close this dictionary, and let me generate few. Yeah, so now how we can address this particular dictionary if we want to. So what we will do, that print F, the value of the element, right? And after that we pass that element is this. Okay, and we close the F string. Now what we can do, we can play around inside. So for example, the element is D, or you can simply write it down that okay, D, or you can say element A, or you can simply remove it and just say of element A is. Now suppose how will you mention it? So you will say D, and you'll say, okay, pass the value of a, correct? And now if you just print it, closing parenthesis does not match. So, okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah. Now see, the value of the element a is this. Now if you change have to b, for example, let's say you do b here, and you can automatically generate results, dynamic results like this. So basically you can play around, you can reference anything inside this list, inside this curly braces as well. For example, let us say we have another, let's say we have a list is equal to 1 2 3 4, okay, and I want to say print, yeah, so let us say I want to say print f the third element in list is, how will you say? You'll say, first of all, if we'll pass curly braces and then you will close it. Okay, now we will fill in this curly brace. So we want to find the third element. So what it will be, L, and then it will be 0 1 2, okay, and then we will close it. So see, the third element in the list is 3. So that's how things are. You can use f string to print or basically iterate over your dictionary or list, and you can print them in this result. Now let us say we have this list of tuples, for example, where we have author, topic, and pages. So let me just print this library. Okay, so if you see, we have this the library stands for, so we have in the tuple 1 we have author name, we have topic, and we have pages, and then we have for example author name, topic name, and we have pages name, right? So now suppose you actually want to print these results inside, for example, let's say you want to print each of the tuple. So what you will do for a in library, right? You'll say for a in library, print a, right? So so that's how you have technically so that's how basically you are printing each of the library. You're running a for loop and printing each of the library one by one. Okay, so this is for example one of the method that we have done. Now let us say we want to print another thing. So let us see, now let's say we have to print other elements. For example, just like we printed, right, for a in library, for a in library, what we did, print a, right? So we got the list of the tuples. We got basically different tuples here. Now I want to access elements of tuple. For example, I don't want all the 3 values. I just want the first value, author, twine, right? I just want author. So what I will do, I'll name it to author. See, this can be anything, right? I'm just naming it for convention, but it can be A, B, C, D, E, F. It can be anything. I'm just writing it down for author in library. Okay, so what we are doing, print, so f the author name is, okay, so the author name is, after this we will start the curly braces, okay, and now we will close it. Now what is the author name? It is so for example author is this tuple, right? So we'll say au author, and what is the element we want? We want the first element, so we'll say 0, okay. And now when we print this, see, author name is author, author name is twine, author name is Fayman or something. It got changed. For example, let's say I just wanted topic name, right? So I'll just change it B, or I can name it topic. For topic in this, I'll say topic and 1, okay. So I'll get it. I mean, you don't need to change these names every time. It is just for your convenience to know what we are trying to print, okay. So this is done in this way. Now, for example, let's say I want to print all of these elements alongside. So let's say I want to use tuple unpacking. So what I will do for a author, comma topic, comma pages. Okay, in library, what we are going to do, we are going to print three things. First, I'm going to print author. Second, I'm going to print topic. Okay. Third, I'm going to print pages. Okay. Now let's see what happens if I do this. See, I got this. I got a small something like this where you have author, topic, like things are printed in this format. Now let us say in my original table, for example, this change, the text change, rafting is an adventure. Okay, let's say the text initially was very large. Okay, now I run this library and let me run this particular part. If you see what is happening, text is not aligned properly, right? Because we have author, topic, pages. Now this topic is going from here to here, then pages is starting here, pages is starting here, something like this is happening. Okay, so there comes the option of padding, which is called padding in Python, that so that you can actually like format the table in a good visual format. So what you do, you mention a minimum size or minimum spacing that you want to keep for each of the element. For example, you are printing author, you want to keep a spacing for author, you want to keep a spacing for topic. So what we will do, in front of the author, okay, we'll go here and we will use a curly brace. For example, let's say I want to keep a spacing of 10. Let's test with 10. Okay, so this will be my spacing. Now similarly for topic also, now because topic is little big, so what I will do, I'll keep it, let's say 40. Okay, and for pages I can keep it 10 because so far it is small. So closing, okay, right? So does not match the, just let me a second. This is this. Okay, this is this. Okay, okay, I need to enter one more, unmatched. See, now if you see, we got the result. Now it is more, I will say, I mean visually this is looking more appealing, right? You can easily read, okay, author name is this, topic name is this, pages name is this. Okay, now we see that there is a lot of space, so what we can do, we can reduce it to 30. Now let's test out, does it work with 30? So yeah, it looks good. Now even let me try a little bit less, 25. Okay, so this is called padding. So what does padding mean? That you, when you're printing your text, you can pad them for the spaces, like this is called padding, so that your text is visually appealing, you can actually read it properly. Okay, so this is the first part. Now let's see one more thing. If you see here, this particular pages is this. Okay, now if you see, author is aligned with text, topic is aligned with text, but if we look at properly, this pages is not aligned. Why? Because this is a text and this is a number. Okay, so if we want to align them, what we do is we do a greater than sign here. Okay, so what it will do, it will put pages and numbers in a single alignment. See, so if you put greater than this, it will put things in a single alignment. For example, if I do this for everything, now what is happening, that this alignment is not looking good. So I will not change it for others, and I will just keep it for this way. So this way you can experiment different padding and different elements. Now let us say you have things here. For example, if you're seeing there is space, you want to add something there, is because you don't know how many blank spaces are there. So what you can do is simply you can write it down between this and this. If you pass a dot, okay, it will, for all the blank spaces, it will print that dot. Okay, you'll get to know, okay, there are these many dots before this particular task. For example, here also, if you just do a dot, or you can simply say, let's say this, I passed a parameter like this. Okay, yeah, sorry, it needs to be string. So what we do, okay, you can do like this. So here it's not required, I'm just telling you how you can pad various things for your formatting. You can also add tables. So this is how you address, you use packing, unpacking, you use formatted string to print things. After this we will talk about one last thing, and this concept is called time stamping. So now we discuss one last topic of this particular formatting, that is date time. So what we do actually, let's see, from date time we import date time. Okay, and after importing this thing, let's say what we do, we create an object of this class date time. So this is class date time, right? And we are creating an object. For example, we create today. So how do we create? So we'll do date time, we'll call this particular thing, and we have to pass value. So for example, year is equal to 2024. Okay, and then we have today is month is equal to 8 August, and let's say we say day is equal to 11. Okay, so let's say I did this. Now I print today. So let's see what comes. So what is it showing? It is showing me date and everything is this particular format. So this is year, this is month, and this is date. Okay, this, and here we have time stamping, for example, like hours, seconds, minutes. So this thing is present there. Now for example, let us say I want to change things, right? For example, I don't want time in this particular format, I want to so basically I want to import time from some other format, and we want to change them. So what actually we can do here is, so instead of saying print today, what we can do is print f. Okay, and we will say f string, and we will pass this variable name, okay, today. Okay, so this comes here. Okay, after this what we are going to do is important thing. So today, and we have to use some formatting. Now how that formatting comes? So there is a website called as strftime.org. So you can say that it is strftime.org. You can check it out on your like website, on your systems. So if you go here on this website, you will see that you have like various date formats like Python strftime.cheat sheet, right? And here you have a code which you can use, and it shows example, and it shows the description of each particular formatting type which you can use. So for example, if you use %b, it will give you the month name, right? If you use %d, it will give you the day of the month. Okay, and similarly, if you want to use year, it will give you %y. So that's how we are going to use this here. So what you'll do, you'll print f today, and after this you need to pass these formatting. So for example, I want to have b. So let's see what it gives me. It will give me August. Okay, now I want August, and then I want date. So what is the formatting for date? It is %d, right? So it will give me %d. It was small d, I think. Yeah. So it will give me August 10. Now I want a comma, and I want to print a year. So what was the formatting for year? It was %y. So this thing, now if you do, you can generate date in this particular format, or you can choose any format from this particular website. You don't need to remember all these codes. So like you can just refer back to this website whenever you want, and like in whichever format you want to generate your particular date. So this was the example of how we use formatting, like for like how we use f string literals to print things, then how we use loops to access elements, and then how we use padding, and how do we use date time. So after this we will discuss the how to handle files in Python. So now we will discuss the next important part, that is how to read files in Python. Okay, and so basically how to read files, how to open files technically, and then read and edit them. Okay, why this topic is important is because in Python we deal with lot of file type. For example, we will deal with JSON files, we will deal with CSV files, lot of time we deal with text files. And similarly, like there are PDF files, there are a lot of files which cannot be accessed through any other software, right? But the good functionality of Python is that you can access any type of file, you can edit it, amend it, like those things are there. So in this particular video, we are going to walk through like how do you read different type of files in Python. Okay, so far we just we covered this for like f string letters. Now we start with the file type. Now if you see that, so if, now let us read about it. Let's read this a little bit, that Python uses file objects to interact with external files on your computer. Okay, so because as I mentioned, there are multiple file types present in your system. Python has different functions. So like with a JSON file, it can interact with a different you can say function or a class or a method. Okay, with a CSV they'll be different. With a text file they'll be different. So there are different methods available in Python. In this particular video, we are going to talk about the text file because it is very important. So how do we do that? Okay, so remember, this particular thing that I'm going to talk about is only for Jupyter Notebook. Like if you are using Google Colab or some other, there are some other functions. You can check it by just putting on ChatGPT, maybe like see, I've mentioned this as well, that it is specific to Jupyter Notebooks. Alternatively, you can create you create a simple text file and there's a text editor and you can access it in the other platforms. So how do you do that? The first is this is called a magic function. So what you do, for example, let me tell. So how do we start it? We start with %write file. Okay, so just like I mentioned here, we use a write file thing, but double percentage we use. It shows that I'm creating a file. Okay, so this is called a magic function. So %write file, and then we let's say I do that test.txt. okay, so I create this particular file. Now I need to enter the point that I want to basically enter in this particular file. So this is Python course. I am a beginner in Python. Please help me understand. Okay, so this is how we are basically setting up the text in any particular Python file. And once we do this, okay, so suppose once we close this and now I run this particular file, so I see overwriting test.text, right? So what happens, there is a text file that is created in your particular directory. So if you want to know your directory, you just write down pwd. So like for example, it will give you your current directory where you are working upon. Okay, so it varies from, like for example, I am using a Mac, so in my system it is a different thing, in yours it will be a different thing. So this was the first part, that how do you create a file. Okay, now let us come Python opening a file. So how do you open file that now suppose you open a file which is not there in the system, like in that particular location. So for example, just like we have done here, open and you name a file. So let's say I do a is equal to open, and let us say I name a file, for example, anything, check.txt. okay, something like this, just to confirm. Yeah, so we create, I just wanted to check if I have created that file or not. So you created check.txt. okay, so if you do this, it will say no such file or directory, check, because this file is not present in my directory. There is a method to avoid this error as well, but I will speak about them later. Okay, so this is what we have done, that you take a file and if you open anything which is not present in your system, it will provide you this. Now to know your directory, this is called pwd. As I mentioned, that is your Python working directory. This is called pwd. It tells you where your file is, and you just add a file to that location, or you can basically change it. Okay, so that's how you do it. Now let us open are this file. So we created this particular file. Now let us try to open this file. So let's say I create a is equal to open, okay, and I do test dot text, okay, and I so this is not, so I need to just cross check if I'm using, oh sorry, so my O is capital, yeah, so okay, so now my file is open now, okay. Now what I want to do, I want to read my file. So whatever I have technically entered in this particular file, I want to read it. So what I will do, I will simply go to A and I will write it down. So it will show me that, okay, there is a file, something like test.txt and module, something like this. It is present. And if I do just a print function, it will read it. Okay. So I opened the file. So after opening any file, what is the objective? So for example, let's say you have any file, we first created a file, we opened it, right? And now what we need to do, we need to read a file. Okay. So we go now. If you see, my file is now an open file object in the memory. We'll perform some reading and writing exercise. Okay, so you have opened the file. Now we want to read it, or we may want to edit it, or we may want to do anything. So there are two operations, read and seek. So first is my file dot read. Okay, so how it works is that, let's say you do a dot read. Now if I do this particular task, so it will give me, this is Python course, I am a beginner in Python, and please help me understand. What does this n mean? N means because whatever the text I created, it was in a everything was a new line. So n means new line. Okay, new line, new line. Okay, this all means new line. So this is how we have created. Now if I try to read it again, let's say a dot read again, let's see what happens. It will give me a blank. Why is it happening? It is happening because once you read, right, so you read the file, your cursor starts from here, it goes from here till the end, and once your reading is done, your cursor is sitting at this particular point. Okay, so that is why if you read from here, the cursor will read blank thing. Okay, so let me repeat it again. When you read a file, your cursor starts, basically it iterates from the starting point, it goes till here. Okay, now it is starting at the end, it is sitting at the end. What you want to, now if you do print, if you do read it again, there's nothing here. Okay, that's why it is generating an error. So we need to do some setting so that my cursor comes back again to here, and that is called seek. Okay, so see, this happens because you can imagine reading cursor is at the end of the file after having read it, so there is nothing left to read. Now we actually reset it. Okay, so how do we reset? We say seek and we give it a position. So what we do, a dot seek, and we give it, we want it to come at index 0. Okay, so I did this. Now if I do a dot read, it will generate the text again. Okay, so this is how you have to, like, every time again seek and read, you have to do things again. So that's how we generated particular things. Now what we were doing till now, we read a file and we use seek. Now let us say I want to read my Python file line by line, not exactly word by word. I want to print the lines. So what happens is that you can read a file line by using the read line. So there's a read line method present here, which what it will do, it will read it line by line. Okay, so for example, because whenever you have large files present, you cannot read them word by word. So you want to see how many lines are present, like which line is depicting what. So what you do, for example, we do a dot seek 0. Okay, and then what you do, a dot read lines. Okay, see what it has created. It has created a list object. Okay, so if I just let's say, let me try to, let's see if this print even, yeah. So what it does is that it has created a list object where you, if you see, this is your first element of the list, first line, this is your second line of the list, this is your third line of the list, and n means new line because n is a depictor of a new line. Okay, so that's how you technically take a file, you can read it, and you can read it line by line as well. So that's how we do. And after we are done with reading whatever we want, we just simply go a.close. Okay, so even if the file is open in your system, if you do this, the file will get closed. So this is a basic, these are the basic operation we did. First of all, using the magic function, we created a file. Then what we did, we checked working directory. We saw that if the file name is not present, file will not open. Okay, after that, what we did, we just read the file. And what happens once we read the file, the cursor goes at the end. So what we need to do, we need to seek it and bring it back to original index. Okay, and once we have done that, we can use read lines to read it line by line. And read lines actually stores the result in a list so that you can access. For example, let's say you want to do for a in, let's say, so for example, let's say you do this, z is equal to this. Okay, sorry, the file, so the file was closed, right? So what I need to do, I need to open the file again. Okay, and once the file is open, I will seek it again. Okay, and now I will do for a in z. Okay, print a. Okay, so what is it is doing, because it was a list, it is printing me all the lines. So now after this, what I do, if I do a.close, the file will if I do a dot for a.close, let me just finish it. Okay, so a.seek 0 string object. Okay, so let me go it. String object has no attribute. So I did this, then okay, I read this, and now I will close the file. Okay, now the file is closed. So this was the objective that what we covered in this particular part. Now we will move to the next part, that is writing to a file. So far we discussed how to basically open a file, read a file, right? Those type of things we did. Now we are talking about writing to a file. So what happens that whenever you do this, for example, let's say you have this, right? You do open. Okay, when you open this file, and let's say I have closed this. Okay, so by default, there is a parameter here which is by default read. Okay, read R means this is a read only file. Okay, so if you want to, so it is a by default parameter. So if you don't specify anything, Python will assume that you just want to view it as view only file. Okay, so if you want to add anything, mention by default the open function will only allow us to read the file. We need to pass the argument. So there is an argument w which says I have to write over the file. So how do you do this? That you do my file open, then the file name, and then you do w plus. Okay, so w means writing. Okay, and w plus means read and write both. Okay, so you have to read as well, like apart from writing you need to read the file as well. So that's why you do w plus. So what we do is that we open this thing. Okay, and then we write down w plus. Okay, so by this way you can actually write to your file. So this is very important. Now let's see one thing. For example, let us say I write something to my file. Okay, so what I do is that a dot write. Okay, and I write down, let's say this is a new line. Okay, let's say I have written this. So just like in this particular example, I did this, and once I execute this particular code, what will happen? It will say the length of the text that has been added to my original file, that is to my a file which was present there. Now what I do, now let me read this file again. So what I do, a.seek 0. Okay, and I do a.read. So Now I do a.read. So if you see, our previous text is gone, which we created here. This is a Python course. Everything is gone. Where did it go? Right? So this is the problem with W plus, that whenever you use W plus, it overwrites your file. So what it does, that it starts from zero and it finishes like it whenever you technically enter or new text, it will remove the previous text and it will overwrite it. So that is the biggest problem with this, which I mentioned, that opening a file with W or W plus truncates the original, meaning that anything that was in the original file is deleted now. Okay, so this is something we need to assume. So what is the way out of this is that, first of all, let me close this. Okay, let me close this. Now what we will do, there is a method to append things to file, right? So passing the R, so instead of doing while opening, instead of passing W plus, we will do A. A means append. Okay, A plus technically means read and append. So this opens the file and puts the pointer at the end. So anything written is appended, just like W plus. Okay, this, so A plus also reads the file, it writes the file, in addition it appends the file. So what we will be doing is that we'll do a.open. Okay, so or we can say, let's say A is equal to open. Okay, and what we did, test dot text. Okay, and we pass A plus. Okay, now we will do this. So now if I do a.read, let's see what comes. Okay, so let me seek it. So what I will be doing is a.seek 0. Okay, now let me a.read. If I do, this is a new line. Okay, so I am at the starting of this. Now I will again put a.seek here so that it goes at the starting counter. Now what I need to do, I need to write a new line to this, right? So how to write? We take original object dot write, and then we add a new line, like whatever you need to add to line, you will just add it. So for example, we'll see a.write. Okay, and there will be text, so you have to pass a new line. Remember, you are adding a new line, so what you have to do, you have to use this sign. For example, let us say you don't do this. So you say this is third line. Okay, let's say I do this and I close this. Okay, I have written this. Now what will happen if I do a.seek 0? Okay, now I do a.read. See, there is no gap in between this, right? Because this was supposed to be a new line, it is, but just starting from there itself. So whenever we write down, we have to use this n. This n means a new line. Okay. So what we will do, we have read the file. So we will again do a.seek 0 and we will a.close. Okay, so we'll do a.close. Now we now we first again open the file. Okay, and let us say we add something. This is fourth line. Okay, so we have done seek equal to 0, and now we do a.write equal to this, and now we read the file again. Okay, so if you see, this is a new line. So for example, let's say if I have to print let's say I do read lines and I do print, it will generate me. See, so this is a new line and this is my previous line. Okay, so this one I should have avoided. So that's why it is always recommended to use /n. It means a new line is getting started. So this is the major thing that we need to do in particular thing. Now comes the last part of accessing a file, is how do you iterate through a file. Okay, so that we will discuss in this part. So one of the major issue is that so far we have been facing is that every time we have to open file, right, we open it and then we close it. So it becomes technically very, I will say, little bit daunting. I mean, because suppose you are doing some big task, right, and every time you have to open file, close file, it becomes little complex, right? So we want to make it very uniform and like easy to go thing for you, for candidates. So how Python provides a functionality like where you have with, where you open the file. So basically you run a loop technically here. What happens is that you create a with object. Okay, in this, every time you read by opening the file and it automatically closes, right? So you don't have to open and close the file every time. Okay, so what happens, let's say now presently my file is closed now. Okay, so now if I have to do a dot open, so let's say I have to do, let's say I have to do this, right? A equal to open, I have to keep it read only file. Okay, now I do a dot read 0. So I'll have to do seek 0, and then so now it is done. Now what I do, I'll use, you can assign any temporary variable name as aliases and manage the opening and closing of files automatically. So what happens that when you create an object like this, so what technically you do that with, okay, so this is the with keyword, you use open. Okay, so you technically take this whole keyword here with open and you name this as, for example, C, with this as C. So what you have done, you have taken a with object as name, and now what you are doing, you are assigning a new variable. Let's say D is equal to C dot. Now what we have to do, we have taken this C and now we want to read it. So we can either read or you can either read lines. Okay, so let's say I do read lines. Okay, and because read lines is my, it is my list, so I'm just accessing the first element of that list. Or even let's say D equal to C dot read line, something like this we do. And now let us say we do print D. Okay, so we got it. Now what, the object is created, but if we want to access it, I will need to select what I want. So I will do with read lines. Particular built-in function is not, just let me confirm. Sorry, yeah, I didn't use this particular part. Yeah. Okay, so when I printed D, I got a list of whole thing. Okay, now if I want to access any particular line, for example, I just want to access 0 part, 0 like first element. Okay, or I want to access the first part object of list. See, I don't need to close the file again and again. What is happening that when we do this with object, it automatically opens, and when the task is done, it automatically closes the file. Okay, so that's how objects or files are used in real time when you have to basically when you have to technically use them in major objects. So this is what the last part it was. It is just a like simple example that you can try various loops and as well if you want to do, right? For example, SC, and what you do for line in C. Okay, you can simply print out. So like what we have done here for lines in this, and you just print the line. So it will just print lines. Okay, and if I just run this, it will print me all the lines. You can play around with as much as you want. So this is the whole part of the text files. I will say that how to open a text file, how to read it, how to write it, how to append it. So this is very much important. There are just few parameters that you need to remember: open, read, seek, read lines, and then I will say W plus, that is read and write, and last is append, A plus. Okay, so these are the 5-6 functions you need to remember how to open a file. You will see a lot of application when you will be using text files in future work. So it's a very simple concept. You don't need to this is not some rocket science, but you should remember this concept.